Hi, and welcome back to another podcast with Mr. Hagan. On this podcast, we're going to talk about public goods, and we're going to try to find a solution to public goods other than just relying on the government. Other than just relying on the government, we're going to try to be creative and think of some other possible solutions. So in this example, we're going to think about a lighthouse. Okay, and we're going to ask, is a lighthouse a public good? Because in many older economic textbooks, a lighthouse is used as a prime example of a public good. So a lighthouse, if it's a public good, then you would say that it is, this E stands for excludable. So we'd say no, it's not excludable. Once a lighthouse sends its light out over the water, then all the boats are able to see it, whether they paid or not, and then they can use that light to avoid crashing into the rocks when going past where the lighthouse is. So it is non-excludable, and it's also non-rivalrous. That is to say, if this guy sees the light, it does not take away from this guy seeing the light as well. So we would say a lighthouse, we'd put that right here. We would say that a lighthouse is both non-excludable and non-rivalrous. It's non-excludable and non-rivalrous. So then we would say, of course, it's a public good. It's a public good. A lighthouse is a public good by that definition. And so then the argument would be, what's the solution if there's a public good problem? Well, if a lighthouse is indeed a public good, we would say then the government should produce the lighthouses, or at very least, the government should provide taxpayer money to fund the building of the lighthouses, and so government would be instrumental in solving this problem. But Ronald Coase comes along and says maybe there's another solution, and here's how I'm going to try to make his argument. I'm going to say what would be another way, another possible solution to the lighthouse public good problem. And so what we could do is we could say, if we could make the lighthouse somehow excludable, if we could find some way to exclude non-payers, that's the whole problem. If we could find a way to exclude non-payers, then maybe we could solve this problem, and we wouldn't need the government to step in and subsidize lighthouses or build lighthouses or whatever. So the way that I want to think about it is I want to think about what are the number of beneficiaries. What I mean by that is, who are the number of people that benefit from the lighthouse? So as it is now, it's a large number of boat owners that are going to benefit. So there's going to be the boat owners are going to be the current beneficiaries. They are the ones that are going to benefit, and there's a large number of them. There's a large number of these boats, and so trying to charge money to all of these boat owners isn't going to work because it's non-excludable. The light is non-excludable once it's created, and so there's no way to go get all these guys and make them pay. Non-payers, free riders, can enjoy the light without paying for it. But what if we change who it is that is the beneficiary? That is to say, what if we try to change, here's another way to think about it, let's change who we're going to charge for the lighthouse services. Right now we're trying to charge the boat owners. But the question is, what if we could find somebody else to charge? Instead of charging the boat owners, what if we could make somebody else pay? So one possibility is we could think about maybe in this little town there are two docks that are owned by some local people. So there are two dock owners, okay? So instead of being, thousands of boats that might go by, there's two people that own docks in that town. And those two people that own the docks, they benefit from these boats stopping by, because some of these boats will no doubt come into town and they'll dock for the night, and they'll pay a docking fee, and maybe they'll eat at a restaurant, and maybe they'll stay at a hotel, or whatever the case might be. So what the lighthouse could do is the lighthouse owner, if this is a private owner now, no government, somebody could come in and build a lighthouse with private money, and they could say, we are only turning on the light if you, the dock owners, pay us money. We're only going to turn on the light if the dock owners pay us, and we're going to charge the dock owners, whatever, some number. We're going to charge you $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month or whatever the price is that I need in order to cover the cost of running the lighthouse. So if the dock owners are the ones that now have to pay, and by the way, if we turn out the lights, then the dock owners aren't going to get much business because not as many boats are going to come by because they're too scared of crashing into the rocks because there's no light. So what might happen is they could charge the dock owners, and now there's only two people that we are charging, two beneficiaries, so to speak, that we are charging, and now it becomes excludable. If you don't pay me, the lighthouse owner, then I just turn the light out. It becomes excludable. And so now what we've done is we've taken the lighthouse and moved it from here to here, to where the lighthouse, it's still non-rivalrous. When a boat goes by, they can see the light and it doesn't take away from someone else seeing the light. However, it now becomes excludable. So the lighthouse now moves up to here. The lighthouse now moves up to here. And so I don't know if I want to say that the lighthouse is now a private good. It's not really. Remember, a private good is right here. A private good is a good that is non-rivalrous and non-excludable. Sorry, I just said that wrong. That's a public good. A private good is a good that is, yes, rivalrous and yes, excludable. Let me say that one more time just because so that it's clear. A private good is, yes, rivalrous and yes, excludable. That's a private good. And so I don't want to say that a lighthouse is now a private good, but we've moved it in that direction. Okay? It was a public good, and now it's becoming more like a private good in the sense that it is now excludable. So this can be done in a lot of ways, actually. So dock owners is one way to do it, but the more typical way of doing this is we could use advertising. So another way is to use advertising. And the way we could use advertising is we could say we're gonna send the light out, and the light is going to be in the shape of maybe a Nike swoosh. That's going to be the light that gets sent out, and that's a really bad Nike swoosh. So maybe the lighthouse now is going to send out that Nike swoosh, or maybe that's going to be the light that comes out, or the light maybe is going to have the golden arches for McDonald's, or whatever the case might be. The advertisers could advertise in the light that gets sent out, and then those advertisers, if they don't pay, they could be excluded. Okay, so that would make it excludable. That would shift the lighthouse from being non-excludable to excludable. So that is a way to solve this problem. Okay, instead of having to charge the boat owners, we find somebody else to charge. The dock owners, advertisers, things like this. And that's exactly what happens with radio. So radio, they can't charge all of the listeners. That's non-excludable. So how they solve that problem? Advertising. They can exclude the advertising. Okay, that's a way to solve that problem. So that's a really cool solution if you can find a way to reduce the number of beneficiaries, the number of customers that you want to exclude. And so then what we can say is this. Here comes our conclusion of all of this with a public good. Public good problem is that there are free riders who are non-excludable, and that prevents the firm from making a profit. How do we solve that problem? Well, what is the problem first? The problem is the benefits outweigh the costs, but it never gets produced because the firm can't make a profit. There are two solutions to this problem. The first solution is that government produces the good. The government can produce the good, or at the very least, they can tax and hire somebody to produce the good. But either way, the government is providing tax money to do it. That's one way to do it. It eliminates the free rider problem. But the other solution is, okay, I wrote here advertising, but what I really should write here, advertising is just a specific example. The general principle, I shouldn't really cross that out, but advertising is just an example of the general principle, which is to reduce the number of beneficiaries. Reduce the number of beneficiaries. Reduce the number of customers that you have to exclude in order to make the good excludable. And then it becomes much more like a private good, and the public good problem goes away. That solves the public good problem. So that's the big idea right here, is the solutions. How are we going to solve these problems? And we now have 2 solutions that are laid out. All right, this has been Mr. Hagan on another Econ podcast. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you on the next podcast.